So North Kingstown is one of the most searched towns in Rhode Island for relocation buyers, and I get it. You've seen the photos of Wickford Harbor, you've seen great school ratings, you've seen Route 4 access, which gets you right down to the beaches very close by. You've got reasonable prices compared to, let's say, Newport or East Greenwich. So it checks a lot of those boxes on paper, but here's the thing. Nobody tells you before you start shopping here. North Kingstown, it's not one town. It's 5 or 6 completely different towns, all wearing the same name. Hey there, I'm Jess Powers. I'm a Rhode Island real estate agent and I work with relocation buyers all the time. I help people just like you figure out not just what looks good on Zillow, but what actually works for real life. So let's jump into it. So first, let's get used to the geography because I need you to get acquainted with a map so that you can understand the different areas in North Kingstown. Now, side note, some folks call it North Kingston, some call it North Kingstown, and everybody calls it NK. Welcome to Rhode Island. Now, North Kingston, or North Kingstown, sits right in Washington County. It's right in the center of the state's coastline. From the town center, you're roughly about 35-ish minutes to Providence. You're about 25 minutes to TF Green Airport. You're about 20 minutes to East Greenwich, about 20 to 25 minutes to Newport, depending on traffic and where you're starting from. And you're also sitting right on Route 4, which is the primary north-south artery in this part of the state. Providence is to the north, and South County and the beaches are to the south. Now, Jamestown and Newport are just a short shot east. Now, for people who need to move around Rhode Island regularly, this location, well, honestly, it's kind of unbeatable. Here's what I tell every buyer early in the conversation, though. North Kingstown, geographically, it's large, and it's not a compact, walkable sort of town. A car is not optional here, it's mandatory, although there is a commuter rail line in Wickford Junction. Now, if you want to walk to coffee in the morning, if you want to grab groceries without getting in your car, or you want to stroll to dinner on a Tuesday night, that's only possible truly in one specific part of the town, and we're going to get there. Let's talk about what it actually feels like to live here. Think of North Kingstown as kind of like the Goldilocks town, and what I mean by that is it's not Newport. No tourist foot traffic, no $30 cocktails, no weekend mayhem flooding through the town that isn't built for it. It's not Providence, no urban density, no nightlife, no walkable everything energy, but it pulls the best qualities from both directions. You've got coastal character, you've got working professional community, you've got great schools, you've got outdoor lifestyle baked right into daily routines. This is a town where weekends look like morning hike at Ryan Park or at Rome Point, afternoons at the town beach, dinner at a spot in Wickford. That's the North Kingstown rhythm. And what actually defines this place is the range. You can be deep in the woods in Slocum and 12 minutes later you are sitting at a harbor view restaurant watching boats. That kind of range, it's the whole appeal. Now, for buyers who haven't fully locked in on what you want, who aren't sure, do you want woods or water, rural or village, suburban or coastal? North Kingstown actually lets you have proximity to all of that. And that's legitimately rare in a state this small. Now let's talk about why people choose North Kingstown. So 3 things actually drive the majority of buyer decisions here. Number 1 is the schools. North Kingstown's public school system is consistently one of the top rated schools in Rhode Island. For families relocating from out of state, this is a primary decision driver. People will make significant sacrifices to budget to get into this district, and the numbers back it up. Number 2, you have the outdoor lifestyle. The town manages many parks and open spaces. Ryan Park is the centerpiece. It's miles of trails for all levels. It's genuinely beautiful and the kind of place that becomes part of your weekly routine. Rome Point is also a local's favorite. You've got this rocky shoreline, you've got trails, and if you time it right in the winter, you may even see some seals. There are multiple beach point accesses. You've got pond systems for fishing, marine biology center at biomes. That's great for families with kids that are going to come to visit and take them over and over. Outdoor life is one of the strongest in Washington County here in North Kingstown. Now, number 3, strategic location. So Route 4 makes North Kingstown one of the best positioned towns in the state for people who regularly have to move around. And for buyers working at the Quonset Business Park, defense, manufacturing, tech, medical, living in NK means a commute that might just be 10 minutes. That's hard to compete with. And if you are a person that is an ocean person, you love the beach, well, North Kingstown gives you easy access to the beaches. So now let's dive into the market and talk numbers. Now in 2016, the median sale price for a single family home in North Kingstown was roughly $355,000. In 2025, that number is $650,000. That's 83% growth over a decade. Consistent, sustained appreciation that reflects genuine, ongoing demand. The 5-year growth number is 60%, which means the run-up, it didn't just happen in 2020 and 2021. It has actually continued. Average days on market right now, it's 35 days. Sales volume in 2025 was 235 single-family home sales. This is real, liquid market. It's got genuine depth. It's not a really thin, tiny little pocket where one sale moves the needle. And what that tells me is buyers are consistently choosing this town year after year. Inventory keeps that demand outpacing supply, and properties that are priced right, they do not sit. So here's how to think about price in North Kingstown in 2026. The entry point, you've got smaller homes, older housing stock, you've got some condos. Those are priced around $450,000 to $550,000. Where most buyers land is around the $600,000 to $800,000 mark. Move-in ready, 3 bedrooms, solid location. You need to plan for about $750,000 and up. Now, if we're talking coastal waterfront, Wickford, Saunderstown, $900,000, well above $1 million, depending on the lot and the water access. Now, one thing I always make clear early, your budget is the primary filter, but neighborhood matters almost as much. A $700,000 home in Wickford Village and a $700,000 home in Slocum are 2 completely different lives, different lifestyles. Not better or worse, just different. And knowing which one fits you, it requires more than just a Zillow search. I want to talk to you about the pros and cons, and I want to give you the honest version. So here's the pros. Again, we've got top-rated public school systems, one of the strongest in the States. You have a strategic commute location right on Route 4, gets you everywhere you need to go very easily. Fantastic outdoor recreation, parks, trails, beaches, water access, real coastal lifestyle without that Newport pressure and craziness. You've got a genuine community feel in the village and lots of those little pockets and neighborhood areas. But here are the cons. Not walkable towns overall. Only Wickford is really the one that delivers that walkability. And inventory there, extremely tight. I've got a video on that. Now, the geographic spread means daily life requires a car, and there are no exceptions to that. Now, like everywhere in Rhode Island, older housing stock is common throughout. Updates, maintenance, they're part of the budget, part of the conversation. Property taxes are on the higher end for Washington County. The schools cost something, and the contrast between neighborhoods can genuinely surprise buyers who didn't research that first. What about the housing stock in North Kingstown? What should you expect? So it has a pretty wide range. You've got historic colonials in the village, you've got post-war capes and ranches in the inland neighborhoods. You have some newer subdivision builds in pockets such as Quonset. You've got rural properties with real acreage in Slocum and the more westerly stretches of town. And the condition is going to vary meaningfully by area. Homes near the coast, those deal with the salt air, and it shows up in siding, in roofing, and in the hardware over time. Older homes anywhere in town, those can carry surprises, dated systems, deferred maintenance, septic systems instead of the sewers. Speaking of septics, many properties outside the village centers are on private systems. That's not uncommon, and it doesn't need to be a deal breaker, but it needs to be understood, inspected correctly, and factored into the offer and also your long-term budget. New construction exists, but it's in limited pockets. You'll have small developments, or you do have larger developments, but it's at the end of its phase. That would be Reynolds Farm, and now it's starting to be more of a resale market. Now I want to dive into actual neighborhoods. And frankly, this is the section that matters the most because neighborhood choice here is genuinely consequential. So let me walk you through each one. Now, Wickford Village, that is sort of the crown jewel. It's an award-winning historic downtown. You've got colonial architecture, you've got cute little boutiques, art galleries, a working marina, and a sense of community that buyers can feel the moment they walk into it. Summer weekends here are buzzing. You've got farmers markets, you've got lobster rolls, you've got boating, you've got all the fun things to do. The shoulder season, it's quiet. It's genuinely really lovely. I do have a couple videos on my channel dedicated to this charming little village. Wickford, it is extremely competitive because it is so incredibly limited. Very small pockets. The highest priced pocket in the entire town. Now, you're not browsing here. You are waiting, you're preparing, you're moving fast when the right thing comes up. And budget-wise, you've got to be likely within that $800 and well over $1 million, especially for those waterfront properties. And what buyers need to understand going in, many homes here are on septic systems. They are old historic homes and they are in a historic district. That's going to affect your renovations, window replacements, siding, all that jazz. It is not always straightforward. Flood insurance is a thing. You've got to make sure that you look into that up front. It's a beautiful area, but it's not casual buying. Now, Saunderstown, that's just south of Wickford, close to the Jamestown Bridge. It's more forested, it's more private, a little bit more upscale. You've got large lots, you've got water views in several of the properties. And this is where buyers go when they want more of that coastal character of North Kingstown, more land, more privacy, kind of a slower pace. And the trade-off is kind of what you'd expect. There is no walkability except around the neighborhood. You are fully car dependent here, and premium coastal pricing applies. Expect at least $800,000, over $1 million for really anything that is meaningful of a larger lot size or water proximity. But for the right buyer, Saunderstown offers something very few places in Rhode Island can really match. That's that seclusion without remoteness. You're still really close to everything. Next, there's Allenton and Slocum. This is sort of classic New England countryside. You've got more acreage, again, a slower pace. Some parts of this area feels like it's a little bit more rural. This is for buyers who want to get out of their car and feel like they're genuinely away from it all. Farmland, proximity to Ryan Park, lots of nature trails. This is outdoor lifestyle at its most undiluted. Again, you're going to drive everywhere. No exceptions. But here's something buyers get wrong. They assume rural in North Kingstown means isolated, but it doesn't. Even in the quietest pockets of Slocum, you're typically not more than 15 minutes from Route 4 access and grocery stores. Now, price points here also tend to be more accessible relative to the coastal pockets, which makes this area worth a serious look for buyers who want space and have had made peace with the car dependency. Now let's jump over to Lafayette and Hamilton. These are established inland pockets. You've got parts that are along the river and pond systems. It's more suburban feel, a little bit more historical character. There are some old mill sites. You've got access to parks, quieter residential streets. This is kind of an in-between zone. It sometimes gets overlooked because it doesn't have like this dramatic identity like Wickford or a strong rural feel like Slocum. But that's actually the point. If Wickford isn't realistic on your budget and you are not sold on rural, then Lafayette and Hamilton neighborhoods offer more inventory, slightly more accessible price point, and a genuine North Kingstown character without the premium. It's often the right answer for buyers who've been priced out of the more coastal areas. Now let's head up to Davisville and Quonset Point. These are different animals entirely. So Quonset Business Park, it's one of the largest employment centers in Rhode Island. Defense manufacturing, tech, distribution, and Davisville is the residential area that's kind of right alongside it. Now, it's not a vibe neighborhood in the traditional sense, and buyers shouldn't approach it that way. But if you work at Quonset, or you need the absolute best Route 4 access in town, this is a strategically smart location. Now, the industrial to rural transition here can genuinely surprise buyers who aren't prepared for it. You've got busy commercial one moment, and then you've got kind of quiet farm rural the next. And understand that going in. Really, you kind of got to drive the areas a lot. Now I want to talk about things that buyers miss. These are things that kind of come up over and over and that most buyers don't find out about until they're already under contract or already in the house. Buyers fall in love with Wickford or Saunderstown and they don't budget in for the reality of coastal upkeep. Salt Air is relentless on siding, roofing, and windows and hardware. So it's not scare talk, it's just the things that last 30 or 40 years in other areas just don't last quite as long in these areas. You have to plan ahead for that. And if you're buying in a coastal pocket, you've got to add in a buffer for maintenance before you do the math on affordability. Now, septic, again, it's common and it's consequential. A significant portion of North Kingstown properties outside the village centers are on private septic systems, and this matters for inspection, for offer strategy, and for replacement cost planning. Septic systems that are aging or at capacity aren't always disclosed. It's something that I'm going to check in every transaction here, but it's not the seller's agent's job to bring up the questions that you don't know that you're supposed to ask. Now, neighborhood variation is dramatic. I've had buyers tour Wickford and they feel completely at home. Then they see a property in Slocum and they look at me like they've been dropped in a different state. It feels entirely different. I mean, they kind of had been. It feels like a completely different area. That's North Kingstown. Honestly, that's Rhode Island for you. That range is a feature. If you don't understand it going in, it's a major source of confusion if you don't. Another thing you need to consider is the tax reality. North Kingstown's property taxes are on the higher end for Washington County. Great schools are funded somehow. Now make sure your lender is quoting the current assessed values. Many towns saw significant increases over the past couple of years, and that made the prices go up sharply. Now, if the online data is showing last year's assessment, you got to verify that the current assessment is what the taxes are reflecting. Let's talk about buyer strategy. So here's how I approach North Kingstown with relocation buyers, because this town requires more strategy than people expect going in. It moves quick. So the first conversation is almost always about lifestyle. What does your actual daily life look like? Morning commute, school runs, weekend routine, all of it. We're gonna talk through it because that determines which part of this town makes sense for you. Wickford and Saunderstown are fundamentally different from Slocum, which is fundamentally different from Lafayette. Getting that right first changes everything downstream. I wanna dive into it and help you figure it out. Second, get pre-approved and do it with somebody local lender. My local lender list has only the best folks on it and I'm happy to share it with you. Rhode Island is a small market. Everybody knows everybody. Relationships matter, and an out-of-state lender who isn't familiar with Rhode Island's housing and Rhode Island's real estate agents can be a real disadvantage in a competitive situation. Local lenders have history with these transactions, and that helps. Who you work with matters. Third, understand that the best properties in North Kingstown do not sit on the market. The buyers who succeed here are prepared, they're pre-approved, they're working with someone who has eyes on the market, established industry relationships, and understands how to craft a strategic offer that wins, because you are most likely going to be competing for the same house with probably 4 to 6 other buyers. Now, there is a meaningful slice of this inventory that moves through professional networks before it even hits Zillow. That's not unique to NK, but it's especially true in the more desirable pockets. Most sellers are going to list on MLS, but not all, and that's where industry relationships and longevity in the business really matter. One other thing I recommend, you should use the town's GIS mapping tool before making an offer. Check the zoning of the surrounding parcels. Know whether or not the land behind the property is protected open space or if it's zoned for future commercial or residential development. That is 5 minutes of research that can save you a significant headache, and your real estate agent should not be doing that for you. You are spending the money. You need to verify the information. Your agent can certainly help. Now, picking the wrong neighborhood isn't just a lifestyle miss. It can mean a home that just doesn't serve your daily life, doesn't match your lifestyle, doesn't match your maintenance tolerance, or doesn't perform the way you expect in the market. So if you're trying to figure out whether North Kingstown is actually your town, or whether somewhere else like East Greenwich or South Kingstown or Narragansett or Portsmouth might be a better fit, well, that's exactly the kind of work that I do, the kind of conversations that I have every day. So reach out. I'll help you build a real estate strategy. My name is Jess Powers, and I'll see you on the next one.